Youngji, welcome to Ask Dr. Gray Pre-Med Q&A. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How can I help you today?
Yeah, so basically I had three questions. The first one is when I just began my undergrad, my freshman year, I found out that I had a chronic illness,
Okay.
which affected me a lot because so I took 4.5 years finishing my undergrad, and those were the same years that I was figuring out my treatment plans. So that affected my grades a lot.
Mm,
And right now I'm doing my postbac and my illness. I mean, like I still do have illness because it's chronic, but everything's completely under control. And I've been getting mixed advice from various pre-med advisors about whether talking about this in my application, like or not, or don't do it at all. So I would like to hear your advice on this.
yeah, so this is the tricky landscape to navigate with illness and exposing yourself, coming out, so to speak, in your personal statement anywhere on your applications. It,
Mhm,
talking about it could do a couple things. It could talk about obviously the reasons why you struggled academically.
mhm,
So it would support potentially the poor grades, getting your condition under control, and saying, okay, look, my condition's under control. Look at my grades now, right? They're hopefully better.
mhm,
Number two, it could potentially be one of the bigger reasons why you want to be a physician, right? Going through this process as a patient
mhm.
can definitely help motivate a lot of people to want to be doctors. Obviously, it doesn't motivate everyone to be doctors, or else we'd have a lot more doctors. We have a lot of sick people in this country,
Mhm.
but it could potentially help explain your reasons for wanting to be a doctor.
Mhm.
Um, but typically,
Mhm.
my advice is usually to stay away from it as much as possible
Mhm.
because as a medical school admissions committee is putting together their class, they're looking through applications, they're looking at all of the students, they need to make sure, obviously, they can't make sure with 100% certainty, but they need to
Mhm.
make sure to the best of their ability that every student they are accepting
Mhm.
is going to complete medical school in 4 years, and every medical student that they are accepting is going to pass the boards the first time they take it.
Mhm.
That is their goal, hopefully, with every medical student. That's why there's such a focus on MCAT and GPA.
Mhm.
If students aren't passing the boards the first time at an increased rate, if students aren't getting through medical school in 4 years at an increased rate,
Mhm.
then the accreditation bodies are going to be looking at those schools saying, maybe we should put you on probation and
Mhm.
see how you are training students, how
Mhm.
you are instructing them. Maybe it's not up to
Right.
snuff.
Mhm.
So if you plant any seeds of doubt that you
Mhm.
are going to be able to make it through medical school in 4 years, that you're not going to be able to pass the boards the first time,
Mhm.
then that's usually where I will tell students to potentially stay away from talking about that kind of stuff.
I see.
So, for you, with everything that you've been through, do you think it's a huge part of your story as to why you want to be a doctor? Or do you just think it's this extra thing that's going on uh,
No,
in your journey?
so originally I wasn't planning on revealing it because some advisors have been like advising me like strongly against talking about it. But my only I guess concern is that my doctor who has been taking care of me for many years is also he I think he's very established. He's also my like undergrad advisor, so he has like dual appointments
Okay.
at School of Medicine and also at my major.
Okay.
So, and I think as an established faculty in the area, I was planning on getting letter of recommendation from him, and hopefully like that like really like giving me him being like a strong advocate for my candidacy. So That's my only concern if I leave that part out.
Does he know about everything that you've been through?
You mean medically?
Yeah.
Yes, because I was like first diagnosed at the hospital.
Okay. So he knows about your struggles, your journey. Why do you think that leaving it out is going to be an issue? If he, well, first of all, typically what will happen is because he is familiar with you from undergrad and everything else, typically he will not have anything to do with your medical school application. Typically, the AdCom members and anybody else involved in reviewing applications, they will recuse themselves from applications of students that they know. So, so from that standpoint, it probably isn't an issue. So I wouldn't worry about it in that respect.
Okay. Well, I mean, I only know like what I know, but
Hmm.
I have actually like although I looking back, I wasn't fully ready. I did like apply a couple years ago just because I didn't want to like spend all this money doing postbac, which
Yeah.
I didn't get into any medical school.
Okay.
But from that experience, I know my undergrad like pre-med committee requires me to get a letter from our major, like one of the professors from major. So I
Okay.
felt like he had to, like I thought if I have to get a letter from someone from my major, undergrad major, maybe he could be someone
Okay.
who.
So first of all, you don't need a committee letter, right? So if your committee letter, if your undergrad committee is making you jump through hoops and getting a letter from your major and all this other stuff, you don't need a committee letter. You can go get individual letters, especially now that you're removed from undergrad.
Mhm.
I would say
Okay.
don't just ignore the committee. Don't get a committee letter. Go get new letters from your postbac professors and people who you know now
Mhm.
would be better. But I want to talk about your previous application. So let's talk some stats real quick. So you applied previously. What did you
Mhm.
end up with GPA wise?
So I did really poorly. My undergrad GPA is 2.7, and I'm almost done with my postbac.
Okay.
I actually relates to my other question. My postbac grade is like a little above 3.7, which like adding that together, it's only like 2.9 something, which is really poor.
So close.
So actually, like I and then MCAT wise, like I when I applied the first time, I didn't do well. Like I actually got like 496, I think, which is why I'm taking the MCAT again in September.
Okay.
But in terms of my GPA, since my overall still is going to be 2.9, like I wasn't sure if I should take like more classes to maybe like bump it up to 3.0.
Yeah, that's a tough one because a lot of schools can filter out based on GPA, and they
Mhm.
may filter you out based on your cumulative being less than a 3.0. Is your science above a 3.0 at this point?
No, like they're like my overall in science is almost the same.
Okay. So I think it probably will depend on the schools that you are applying to. And I would
Mhm.
recommend, my assumption is you're not applying this cycle, but
Mm-mm.
next
No.
cycle. Okay.
Yeah, next cycle.
As we're recording this, the cycle's kind of ongoing right now.
Right.
So applying next cycle. So you have some time to do what I always recommend and reach out to the medical schools that you
Yeah.
are most interested in applying to and talk to them and see to say, hey, I did bad in undergrad. I own it. But look at me now, right? I've improved. I have a 3.7. How many credits do you have now with the 3.7?
Um, maybe six. I think 6 or 7.
6 or 7 credits or 6 or 7 classes?
6 or 7 classes. Sorry,
Okay.
my class, like my school counts one class only as like 1 credit.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So 6 or 7 classes at roughly a 3.7. So that's good.
Mhm.
Um, having that conversation with the school, then you can say, look, here's what I've done. My cumulative, my science are going to be under a 3.0. would you recommend at this point re taking more classes to get above a 3.0, or where do you potentially filter out applicants? Will I have a chance at your school with where I stand now? And let them tell you. So I would reach out as soon as possible so that if you need to schedule some more classes, you can do that.
Okay. Okay, and actually, my other question was also relating to that because I saw your post or podcast relating to building relationships with admissions dean.
Yep.
And the post that I read was about like calling them directly. I think it's like at a time point where after you submit your application and and like student pretty much asks them to manually pull out the application, which might have gotten filtered, and then review it. But then at this point, a year out from my application cycle, like what I know you briefly told me about it, but exactly like what kind of steps do I have to take? What do I need to do exactly to execute?
So pre-application cycle, you'll have much more ability to communicate with the schools because you are not a current applicant. Typically, schools will say, okay, you are a current applicant. I'm not going to help you more than all of the other applicants. So I really can't tell you much. But pre-application, they'll say, hey, you're being proactive. You're reaching out. Yeah, I'd love to help you. So pre-application, I recommend reaching out, either shooting an email to the admissions office, calling the admissions office and saying, hey, I'd love to talk to somebody. How can I schedule a call? And just running through kind of your experiences and everything that you've been through and that you struggled with. During the application, there's really not much that you can do other than an update letter if the school allows it, a letter of intent or letter of interest potentially after an interview, sometimes before an interview in some rare circumstances. What I was talking about, kind of what you were hinting at of saying, hey, like, I probably maybe didn't make it through your filters. So I've had students do this, and I told a story recently on a podcast of a student who was in the middle of their application cycle, wasn't getting any interviews. It was getting late in the cycle. Her number one choice was local to her. She had been involved with the schools with some like on campus things. She had run into like the dean of admissions or something at like some school thing. And so I said, look, just reach out and say, here's who I am. I might not have been reviewed because my MCAT is this, and here are some other strengths that I have and why I think I'd be a good fit for the school. And the next day she had an interview invite for like 2 weeks later. So it's always going to be school dependent. It's a letter of intent or a letter of interest or a plea to review an application like that isn't going to work everywhere. It worked for her because I think obviously the school was receptive to it, but also because she wrote a good letter of interest to say, hey, like, I know I have this blemish on my application, but here are reasons why I think I would be a good fit for your school, and just trying to communicate that as best as possible.
I see. So, while talking, like, should I mention about my medical condition at all, or don't like do that?
You're going to have to explain why you struggled in undergrad to begin with, right? And so, do you just kind of generically say, I struggled with some personal issues? Do you generically say I struggled with some medical issues? Do you say I struggled with a chronic illness that I still struggle with now, right? It's one of those things that you're going to have to do what you are most comfortable with. Again, my recommendation is don't throw yourself under the bus as if you can manage it. But you also have to do what you feel in your heart is right. Based on your own morals and ethics. You have to do what you feel is right based on why you are pursuing becoming a physician. If this is, again, a huge part of why you want to be a doctor, then there's probably no way to avoid it. So I think you need to, if you are going to talk about it, understand that there may be consequences to that.
I see. Yeah. So yeah, but like yeah, thank you. It's just my biggest hurdle is the GPA because there's no way to like really easily fix it even with postbac.
Well, it's not it's easy enough, right? If you get A's, then you're fixing it. The dilemma is the denominator is so big after so many credits that you're just not moving the needle much, and so it just takes longer. And so I would do the math to see where you stand now, right? Once you finish up all of your classes that you're currently taking or enrolled in the future, do the math, see where you stand, and figure out what you would need to do to get to a 3.0. Is it another two classes at a 4.0, like another two classes getting straight A's? Will that get you to a 3.0? And just do that math and say, once you have that math, is it going to be another semester? Is it going to be another year? Is it going to be a year and a half? What does that look like? And then do kind of your own assessment to say, am I willing to continue taking classes? Am I willing to wait even that much longer? Or do I apply now, potentially get screened out at the majority of the schools, but maybe there's one school out there that will give me a shot because they'll see this nice big upward trend in my postbac.
I see.
And obviously reaching out to schools and maybe getting some sign off from them to begin with will give you the confidence that maybe that is the right move.
Okay. Well, my question, I guess, was more specifically like, so are there schools that set their like cutoff at 3.0? Because when I asked this question to another advisor, um, she said that like they're probably like they probably set it higher, like maybe 3.3, 3.5. So like maybe trying to bump it up to 3.0 from 2.9 like wouldn't make that much of a difference. So
Yeah, it's going to be completely school dependent, right? If you look at UCLA, oh man, I forget if they went up to a 3.4, I think was their cutoff. Every school is going to have their own kind of internal measurements and standards, and some schools will be open about what those are. Some schools won't be. The general rule of thumb is a 3.0. Now, the question is, are you only wanting to go to Harvard and Yale and Wash U? Or you're like, anywhere that will take me, I'm okay with,
yeah.
right? I'm applying to DO schools, I'm applying to MD schools. Anywhere that'll take me will be okay. The other thing to potentially think about is there are schools that have like a 32-hour rule, where they'll only look at your last kind of 32 hours if you've repeated that many hours. Or some schools will only look at your last 20 hours of science credits, and that's how they will determine your GPA. So there are medical schools out there that do that as well with GPA. Kind of the moral of the story is you can't control what the medical schools are going to do once you submit your application. You can't control how they're going to manipulate and calculate everything. The only thing that you can do is get as good of grades as you can get right now
Mhm.
and potentially try to cross that 3.0 threshold just as the general rule of thumb,
Mhm.
and then put out the best application possible with an amazing personal statement and activities and secondaries, applying early in the cycle, obviously with a strong MCAT score, and leave it up to the schools to hopefully help you.
Right. Do you think it's worth it to take maybe community college classes to bump it up from 2.9 to 3.0?
I think just statistically, numbers wise, potentially, right? Just from a numbers perspective, so that you're not filtered out automatically at schools that do have some sort of bottom that's at a
Mhm.
3.0. That
Okay.
might not be a bad idea.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because if it's community college classes, maybe I can do it just like price wise
Hmm.
and just time wise
Yep.
because yeah, and then postbacks, like I'm kind of running out of classes to take because they don't offer that many classes for
Yeah.
postbac. So I mean, I was thinking about like doing community college classes, but I wasn't sure because especially after having had taken so many upper level science classes, like how, like, I wasn't sure how would they would, like, admissions committee would think about it.
Every admissions committee is going to be a little bit different, but community college classes aren't going to stop you from getting into medical school. You may have to explain why you took community college classes there at the end of your kind of academic career. And you could
Hmm.
say, that's all I could afford to take. And they go, okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay, so you think it might be worth it if
I
I
think
want to
it potentially
continue
could be worth it to get above that 3.0.
that? Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you. I will reach out to some schools to see if they could help me and if they can tell me what their cutoffs are.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
start building those relationships. All right. Well, thanks for the great question, and I wish you luck on your journey to medical school.
Thank you. Well, sorry, I have one more
Oh, one more
question.
question. Let's go.
So after that initial interaction with schools, like how often should I follow up or anything like that to continue to build the relationship?
It just my answers today are all it depends, right? It just depends on potentially how receptive they seemed to begin with,
Okay.
right? Use your personal relationship skills and kind of your spidey senses to determine like they didn't really seem very happy talking to me.
Hmm.
Maybe in those cases you don't reach out as often. You
Hmm.
may have somebody who's like, "Oh, reach out whenever you want. That's great. Here's my email address, or here's my phone number. Here's my cell phone. Here's my home address. Come stop by, say hi, have dinner with the family." That would be amazing. But I think it really depends, and you could potentially ask, like, "Do you mind if I check in with you next month and let you know how I've been doing and kind of where I stand?" You can ask that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. You good? Anything else?
No, that's it for now.
All right. Well, again, good luck on your journey. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.